So we're here this afternoon to acknowledge the great work taking place in Murrow College, or as I often call it, the Murrow family. And like most families, we have a little bit of dysfunction around the edges, but it's all good on the whole. So this includes all the students who've ever called Murrow College home, and including our faculty and staff and the rest. So it's an exciting time for us. I'd first like to welcome our honored guests. WSU's new president, Elizabeth Cantwell, is here. On her first day in office, I might add. And we also have academic leaders and senior administrators from Washington State University. Thank you for being here. And WSU's Board of Regents members. We have several Board of Regents members who are here. If you would stand for us real quickly so we can acknowledge you. All right. That's awesome. Thank you so much. All right. Now, sorry for the I'm watching the teleprompter just going up and down, so I'm just going to tell you I'm off message pretty much for the entire time here. Okay, so now it's group participation time, so I need you to pay attention, all right? To begin this afternoon, sorry, I should stay with the mic here, we're going to recognize all attendees who are or were first-generation students, okay? So if you're the first person in your immediate family to graduate from a four-year institution, you're a first-generation college student by definition. So if you are or were a first-generation college student, please stand or raise your hand. There we go. Yeah, look at that. That's awesome. We have Andrea Joyce, a first-generation. There we go. Here are you, first-generation also. Fantastic. Okay, and when I noticed we had several Board of Regents members here, that's fantastic. All right, thank you so much. Okay, next. If you are a current scholarship recipient from Murrow College, would you please stand or raise your hand so we can recognize you? Scholarship recipients? Okay, those kids are studying. All right. You know, I am proud to say that those kids are working hard, so that's good. Okay, all current students or graduate students, undergraduate or graduate students, and attendees who've ever earned a degree from Murrow College, if you've earned a degree from Murrow, please stand to raise your hand so we can recognize you. Awesome. Okay. Nice, thank you. Those are smart people you're looking at there, folks, all right? Okay. Murrow College students have numerous applied learning opportunities, and to demonstrate how involved Murrow College students are in any industry-related activities, I want students involved in any of the following organizations or opportunities to please stand or wave your hand when I read the name of the club or opportunity so that we can recognize you, okay? So we're going to hold our applause to the end, so pay attention here, and I'm going to read through the list quickly. So if you stand, remain standing, and you can just raise your hand if you're doing more than one thing, because we often find students who are involved are doing multiple things. And pay attention, I'm moving fast and I don't want to have to repeat myself, all right? So here we go. This is just like class, folks. Okay, so Advertising Club, Bateman Public Relations Competition Team, Cable 8 Productions, Crimson Creative, our student-run firm, Daily Evergreen, J. Rocky Chapter of the Public Relations Student Society of America, KUGR, KZUU, KJEM, or Northwest Public Broadcasting, 4 radio stations here. The Murrow News Service, the National Student Advertising Competition Team, the Religion Reporting Project, and the Rural Plunge. Okay, awesome. Okay, our students are studying. Thank you. All right, very nice. Now, if you're not currently a student, but you were involved in one of those organizations I mentioned when you were a student, including the Association for Women in Communication, which is no longer active on a national level, but we had an outstanding chapter here for many years, thanks to the efforts of Roberta Kelly. Would you please stand or raise your hand so we can recognize you? So all those clubs, Bruce Amundson, Evergreen, there we go, come on. There we go, thank you, all right. All right, how come I know that and you don't? I think we need to talk, all right. All right, in addition to the organizations I've mentioned, Murrow students have an opportunity to learn as they travel the country and globe. We call these Murrow Expeditions. We just had Murrow students returning from spring break trips to Los Angeles and to Phoenix to cover spring training. Is that not the coolest trip ever? You would think the dean could get a hookup on one of those trips, but it does not happen, all right? We had 4 backpack journalism students recently returned from visiting Germany to cover the anniversary, the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Buchenwald, the Buchenwald concentration camp, where Edward R. Murrow did really one of the most profound broadcasts in journalism history. And this May, we're going to be sending students to New York to take in the play Good Night and Good Luck, starring George Clooney. And we've had strong donor support for these students, so a lot of them are going to go to a greatly reduced price. Very excited about that opportunity as well. We're trying very hard to get Mr. Clooney to wear some Murrow College stuff, so I'll let you know if we succeed or not. Yeah. If you have an in, let me know. So far, my in was a fail, but I'm working other things. Okay. Okay. Now, I'd like to recognize the effort and dedication of some very special Murrow students. Who are student ambassadors or other students working this event, please stand for us real quick. Awesome. Thank you. All right. Very cool. Okay, they played an important role in making Symposium happen, and I just wanted you to recognize their outstanding work. Okay. I received tremendous support from members of my professional advisory board. They mentor me personally, mentor Murrow College students, financially support students with things like this trip to New York. They spread the word about the great work we're doing in Murrow College. And we have a number of past and present Murrow Professional Advisory Board members here with us today. If you're a Murrow Professional Advisory Board member, past or present, I want you to stand for me right now so we can recognize you, all right? Okay. Awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate that. And we had a great meeting yesterday. A lot of good folks with good advice for the dean. All right, as we look to other forms of excellence in Murrow College, we want to celebrate the more than 100-year history of Northwest Public Broadcasting. Can you imagine that? More than 100 years. So do we have any folks from NWPB here this afternoon by any chance? Awesome. Congratulations to you. Okay, there's one final group I've saved until now to recognize, and that's Murrow College faculty and staff. And I should tell you, I meet with people all the time and talk about Murrow College. I talk with donors, I talk with alumni, and inevitably the conversation turns to, who was your favorite professor? What was that one class? What was that Murrow moment for you? And it's just great to hear their responses. And they routinely mention Murrow College faculty. It's such a great group. They pour themselves into our students every day. Our student advising team is so strong. The business office staff is great. My dean's office staff is great. Really are an outstanding team. So if anybody here is here from the Murrow College, faculty, staff, or graduate students, since they do some teaching for us as well, would you stand so we can recognize you, please? All right. Thank you so much. I really do appreciate that. You're outstanding. Your work really is the beating heart of Murrow College, and I appreciate that very much. So, all right. So this has been a terrific event, but we're going to celebrate now our Hall of Achievement inductees. So with more than 13,000 graduates, induction to the Murrow College Hall of Achievement is a rare and meaningful event. The last time I did the math on this, it was less than 1% of our graduates are inducted into the Murrow College Hall of Achievement. It's a pretty big deal, okay? So Mary Grace Roski is the chair of our Professional Advisory Board. She's going to come on up and talk to us about our inductees.
Thank you, Bruce. I have had the opportunity to present this award for the last couple years, and I will say that we have 6 this year, which is more than we've ever had before. And while that's very exciting, I think what's more exciting is all the future HOA members who are in this room and don't even know it yet. And so I hope that the students will provide or will find a lot of inspiration in the stories of our 6 award winners. They have really great stories of service in their communities, of career success, and most of all, love of Murrow College. So thank you. I'm real excited to be here. And what we do here each year is we honor exceptional graduates and friends of the Edward R. Murrow College of Communication. After seeking and evaluating many nominees, our inductees are recommended to the dean by members of the Professional Advisory Board's HOA committee. Nominees are individuals who have made significant contributions to their professional, business, or academic achievement. They've also demonstrated community involvement that highlights corporate or personal social responsibility. They, of course, have shown support for the Edward R. Murrow College of Communications, and they are individuals typically who have received awards and recognition in their own profession. We also recognize individuals who are not alumni, but have made a meaningful contribution to the college. Before I proceed, I want to acknowledge the work of the members of the HOA committee for their diligent work in the selection process. This includes the chair of the HOA committee, Sherry Brennan. Thank you for your service. And now it gives me great pleasure to introduce the 2025 Hall of Achievement class of inductees. We start today's inductions by honoring a distinguished corporate communications professional who spent nearly 4 decades shaping media relations in the telecommunications and forest products industries. A graduate of WSU, Bruce Amundson has played a crucial role in transforming Bellevue's local newspaper into a daily publication before moving to corporate communications and working with major organizations such as Weyerhaeuser. His leadership continued through his service on the WSU Foundation and by chairing the Murrow College Professional Advisory Board. Please join me in watching this video tribute to Bruce.
Well, I grew up right here in West Seattle and actually started kind of my journalism career here, doing some stringer stuff for the West Seattle Herald and working in the school newspaper. I spent 3 years actually as a journalist over in Bellevue, and then transitioned into corporate communications, where I spent the majority of my life, 35 plus years, doing corporate work for anything from cellular companies to forest products at the end. When I left Washington State University as a long-haired kid ready to take on the world, I never envisioned I'd be talking to the Wall Street Journal, explaining to them why the hostile takeover that my company was undertaking was going to be good for a forest products company, and yet there I was. And I could look back and I could say, well, gee, sure, I made some other decisions, but you know, the decisions I made led me to a pretty good place.
I mean, he's a guy who jumps in with both feet. I mean, he's keeping me informed of a lot of things that are going on, and that's his journalist background. So, yeah, he's been a great cougar, and I'm just happy for him that he got this award.
One was incredible humility that this honor was being bestowed upon me, and the other one was, really, are you kidding? I'm going to be in with these other people. So I think it was a combination. I'm very honored and a little bit surprised, quite frankly, that I have this opportunity. Working on the Evergreen, that is really the thing that shaped my career, shaped my life. It's where I spent a lot of time kind of honing my communication skills. I was doing something live. I could make mistakes in front of people. I could also have accolades in front of people. First time that I actually hired people. So that obviously led to some benefits later on in my career when I was building staffs and things like that. So I got some management experience and also the writing experience. So definitely the years that I spent on the Evergreen were probably the most formative things at WSU.
Smart guy, and he's smart because he reads. And he had, again, that political science background. It's his major, political science for myself. And I think we weren't so rigid either way. And I think I could see that in Bruce. And so therefore, we had a good relationship on the campus. And I think that, again, is something that was always in the back of my mind. And it was a very easy connection we made in later years.
Really throughout his time as a graduate of the university, I've been really pleased that he's involved in a lot of the things that WSU touches, and he's used his leadership skills in a lot of important ways. Bruce and Paul have done that, in particular working through presidents and the foundations and things like that. And it's great to have their influence and role in Murrow College as well as their work at the higher levels of the university.
The biggest accomplishment are the people that I helped to grow and mentor, because you know, the things you deal with as a journalist or even in corporate communications are kind of transitory. And being able to work with people and help them develop their careers by giving them opportunities and helping them grow, I would say it's definitely the people that I worked with and helped develop.
I very much appreciated Bruce's leadership on the Professional Advisory Board. His advice to me was helpful in a number of situations, and he's a good friend. He cares about Washington State University, he cares about Murrow College, and he certainly is deserving of this honor.
I would just say don't limit yourself. Avail yourself to any opportunities. Some you may want to take, some you may not want to, but you'd be surprised where those opportunities may take you.
Congratulations, Bruce, on this significant recognition and on your induction into the Murrow College Hall of Achievement. Come on up.
Thank you. I'm beyond honored to be here today. I really honestly can't believe I'm joining the number of people that are on this list. This reminds me a little bit of grade school, because whenever there was an oral presentation, it was always the poor schmuck with the last name of A that was first. So, but I just want to let the rest of the inductees know I'll set the bar low, so you'll be fine. I was working on probably about the 6th draft of my presentation last night about why would somebody was a political science graduate who never ever took a single communications course be so engaged and care so much about Murrow. And I finally went, forget it. Actually, I used probably a little bit stronger word than that. But I realized that what I was trying to say was really hard to capture in some brief words. Certainly, as you saw in my work on the Evergreen, that set my career where it went. It took me, thankfully, away from law and into a lot more fun things. I could also say that my political science background is part of the reason that I'm so engaged with Murrow, because there are a lot of governments out there that have constitutions and all the same things we have, but there's one thing they lack, and that's the very First Amendment, which sets the space for people like Harry and certainly the namesake of this college to really keep those people in check. So those are certainly key things. But when I really sat down and thought about it, it really came down to a very simple thing. Whether it was that long-haired young kid working on the Evergreen, or this bald aging man standing in front of you, for some reason, Murrow has always seemed like home.
Thank you, Bruce. Our second inductee, Paul Casey, is the CEO and founder of Casey Communications. He built his career as a respected leader in marketing and public relations, and his civic engagement included involvement in major Seattle civic projects. Paul, a proud WSU graduate, authored a book on self-employment and recently served as chairperson of the Murrow Professional Advisory Board. Please join me in watching this video tribute to Paul Casey.
I would say most of my career has been going different directions, but I'd have to say the overall encompassing thing I did was becoming an entrepreneur. Well, I didn't pick WSU, my dad did. And my older two brothers had gone there. I listened to my dad, and I was able to tell him that after I graduated. Thank you for doing that. And I would say that to anybody now. It's just a great place to go, and I had a wonderful experience. Being student body president for 2 terms, so that means half my time was up in the French administration building and in the Cub, doing a lot of student things. That was my education. That was what I remember. I think we were a football player. You probably remember playing on the football team most, and I think I had the same kind of experience being at Washington State, again, being in student government.
Paul and I were working for the Constitutional Commission. We took road trips going out around the state to meet with people to get community input and to also explain what we were doing. And he ended up being a wonderful partner. We worked hard, we had a lot of fun, but also he just was at a natural at it in terms of coming into towns, meeting new people, new areas, and it was like they were, longtime friends by the time we left.
Paul is what I would say the embodiment of what I think of as a journalist and broadcaster. He is a great listener. He's curious. He asks good questions, and he's got that great voice.
The theme of this symposium here is curiosity. And I think curiosity is important. So I was curious about a lot of different things, but that really served me well.
He was doing podcasts, some form of that, before there were podcasts. He was always interviewing someone, so it was always interesting to ask Paul about his interviews, because they really was a gamut of different folks from different professions. In his heart, he embodies what it means to be a true Cougar. He was the one who would speak at President Glenn Darrell's service, and he was the one who was seeing Keith Jackson at his home in Southern California and keeping him engaged in everything WSU.
If I would say anything, about, let's say, people going forward, is to be curious and to also look at life as to what you can give back. It's not any one thing that I can say I had this huge achievement, but it's a series of those that I feel proud of.
I think if you look at what Paul has done for Murrow and for students, the mentoring of students, the support of Murrow programs, his involvement with the faculty, with deans and others, he has obviously helped shape Murrow to what it is today, and the benefits that students are getting right now, I think, are a direct result of a lot of the work that Paul has done. So he's very, very deserving of this honor.
As you know, I was fortunate to meet Edward R. Murrow when I was an undergraduate at WSU, and I can say that I think he would have really liked you.
Paul, you are so deserving of this award. I couldn't think of anyone who would be more deserving than you, and just our heartfelt congratulations to you, and proud to call you a friend.
In closing, Paul, I can't think of anybody who deserves this more than you do. Congratulations.
Congratulations, Paul, and welcome to the Hall of Achievement. Come on up.
Put this here. Oh, hang on. Look. I look this way. My goodness, that's going to be hard to follow. Oh, geez. Nice job putting that together. Wow. Thank you very much for that. I'm speechless, and seriously, and a lot of people don't say that when I'm around, but certainly I am now. I think the best thing I did in the Murrow board was bring Bruce Amundson in. I mean, seriously. I went, hey, Bruce, I'm on the board, and he said he did, and hey, come on. There it is. So great speech, Bruce. And Doug Pica, thank you very much. And of course, Sam Reed, the former Secretary of State, spent time with him. And I learned a lot from both of them. And so anyhow, I also want to thank Jeff Collier and also Greg Mills, who put together this video and edited it very well. I was a little worried I was wearing the same coat in the interview. I don't think I was, though. My wife, Marty, would have killed me. She would have gone, oh, John, Paul. And I go, oh, good. It wasn't the same coat. So I'm just going to mention something about really the Edward R. Murrow himself, because again, I've been such a fan of his for so many years, like we all are, and that's why we're all here. And also channel a little bit of George Clooney, because we all know that right now, we mentioned it earlier, in Broadway, that Good Night and Good Luck is playing again and breaking all box office records. So I think that tells us a lot now about what we are going through now as a country, and why people are thinking how important it is right now. And of course, George Clooney is an individual
who has done a lot to bring that to the surface. He was on 60 Minutes just a couple of weeks ago, and I was watching what he was having to say about good night and good luck, and just a few quotes. I think he says it all. Rather than me saying, I'm going to mention what he had to say. And he said, the Fourth Estate must succeed. There's no option there. It must. There are parallels between the play and the times we live in today of total disinformation. There is one direction, when he went back to talk about Joe McCarthy, would hold up a blank piece of paper and say, there's 50 communists on this white piece of paper. And of course, there were none. And that's kind of what Joe McCarthy's version of fake news was then. But the question is, what's different now? And that's what I thought was interesting with what George Clooney had to say. And he said, now facts are not negotiated. That's different from that time. We're at a place now that, we can all agree and disagree. That's fine. I disagree with myself half the time when the day's over going, God, But nonetheless, but if we can't reach a consensus that, let's say, this chair is what color? Blue or something like that. We're coming up, or crimson and grays are school colors. We can't agree on that now. And that's the sort of thing which he said, that is real trouble ahead, and that's where kind of we're at. Just want to mention something too about good night and good luck. If you haven't, or you don't get the opportunity to go to New York and see this, and you haven't seen the movie Good Night and Good Luck, made in 2005, see it. It's wonderful. David Strathairn plays Edward R. Murrow so wonderfully. It's almost like it's him. And if you've seen it once, see it again. I just watched it again. I enjoyed it the second time, actually more than the first. I just want to leave with some Edward R. Murrow quotes. And again, this is going back 70 years, and he could be standing here saying this today. When the loyal opposition dies, I think the soul of America dies with it. Another one, no one man can terrorize a whole nation unless we are accomplices. And I like this one. Just because your voice reaches halfway around the world, that doesn't mean you're any wiser than when it reached only to the end of the bar. I just started thinking, did he think about that when he was at Rico's one afternoon, I imagine, because, I looked in history. I'm a history buff, right? Rico's was open then when he was here. So it could have happened there. I could go on, but I'm going to move it very quickly now. I just want to congratulate Dean Pickleton for what he has done for the Edward R. Murrow College, and of course his symposium, and also what he has done with the Murrow News Fellowship Program. That's growing. That's something we need. More journalists, and he's making that happen. A lot of other people are too. So, and there's some good news. Harry Smith said today about optimism, and we have to do that. Well, there's some local newspapers coming back in the state of Washington now. I just saw a great story in LaConner about, and now a paper is coming back, and the community's behind it, and it's just really doing quite well. So hopefully, maybe we'll turn the corner on that. But there you go. Let's see. Finally, I just want to say my wife Marty's here, sitting right there. She's a graduate of USC. That's okay. But I do want to say that Elson Floyd, when he was the president of Washington State University, in 2014, he recognized Marty's contribution to Washington State and made her an honorary WSU alum. And Doug Pica, one more time on the board. He's on the Board of Regents. There's other regents here. I saw Dr. Cantwell today for the first time. Welcome. And the regents, you guys did a great job. Thank you.
Great. Our third inductee, Marty Dickinson, is a marketing executive and member of the WSU Board of Regents. With a career spanning 27 years, she has held key leadership roles in organizations such as the Spokane Teachers Credit Union, Umpqua Bank, and the Spokane Regional Chamber of Commerce. As a graduate of WSU, her advocacy and support of the university and her efforts supporting urban development and marketing have had a lasting impact on WSU and Eastern Washington. Please join me in watching this video tribute to Marty Dickinson.
Well, hi, I'm Marty Dickinson, and I am actually the Chief Marketing Officer at STCU in Spokane, Washington, and I graduated from WSU in 1991. So many things had an impact on me at WSU in my 4 years that I was there, but I would say speech communication classes were definitely a significant influence. Those classes really taught me, first of all, how to read an audience depending upon the topic you might be speaking on. And little did I know, that what my career would be 30 years later, and that so much of those fundamental things that I was doing in some of those courses would really translate to very tangible skills that I have today. Being curious and being open, regardless of where you're at in your professional stature, is incredibly important. Curiosity matters at every juncture. When I came out at WSU, I didn't really know. I didn't have a plan. And so I went right into sales and service. And that was a real different path. And it wasn't necessarily the ideal one that I thought for sure was going to be the direction I was going. But I have this unique pathway as to where I'm at today because that I was willing to do many things throughout my career. I think it has set me up really, really well and has differentiated me in having a real broad scope of what an organization and the makeup of it looks like. For me, giving back has always been something that really lights my fire. I'm passionate about it. I have appreciated that I have learned how to weave my everyday professional career into my passion of being able to do community engagement and leverage both of those so that they can both have really good outcomes.
Yeah, I've known Marty since 2008. In my previous role, I was superintendent in the Central Valley School District. We ran our bond in 2015. And Marty co-chaired the Citizens Committee for that bond. I believe it was the team that Marty put together, the connections that we made to the community, and her unique way of thinking about communication and how to communicate with our community that allowed us to pass. And we passed that bond in 2015, I believe, with 65%. People want to do business with people that they have quality relationships with. And Marty creates those quality relationships.
Marty is the woman you want on your team. She's gonna get it done. There's no frills with her. What you see is what you get with Marty. I've been fortunate enough to see her in action, whether it's in a business meeting, a community setting, getting a school bond passed. If you wanna do something fun, tell Marty no. See how that ends up for you. Marty, congrats, girl. I love you. I'm so proud of you. Nobody deserves this more. Thank you for doing everything that you do. I love you.
Congratulations, my friend. You have meant more to me in my career than I think you could ever realize. I think that this community is a better place because of you. Congratulations on this award. I can't think of anybody more deserving.
To be acknowledged and rewarded by an institution that has created a foundation in which I have charted my entire adult life on WSU. It was somewhat overwhelming, and I'm incredibly honored because of those that have received this and the caliber of individuals they are, as well as understanding the caliber of the college and the kinds of students and professionals that come out of this space. So to be included in something like that is pretty awesome.
join us on stage.
Well, in typical Marty format, I maybe didn't read the directions all the way. My husband, Reed, who's here tonight, would say, could we just, when we were trying to put something together, he would say, could you just not throw the directions away? I'm like, it's fine. If there's a leftover screw, I'm sure it was just by accident. So I didn't fully prepare to speak today, but I would say that as a young woman at 17 years old who came to Pullman in August of 1987, sight unseen. I had never been to Pullman, even though I was from Spokane. I thought, you know, it's close enough. There was kind of a rule. My parents were like, you need to be close enough that we can get to you if, you know, you pull a Marty. And so my folks dropped me off at Striped Param, and to be exact, my mother was literally chucking, you know, bags of clothes out, just saying, here's a calling card, don't use it if you don't have to. But we love you and good luck. And it was a unique thing because both my amazing and beautiful, smart sister, Dana, who's here today, we were first generation. My dad moved from Canada, so really that my sister and I would go to university in the States. And so you can imagine it's a pretty full circle moment for me today to be that 17-year-old girl who's had the opportunity to chair the Board of Regents for Washington State University. It's hard to kind of get your head around that at times. I think I was always destined to be in communications because when the four of us would sit around the dinner table, I talked a lot. And I tended to speak Marty's truth and felt like everyone at the table needed to hear that. And sometimes it was translated to being too cheeky, and I would be excused from the table. And my sister, I was the talker, my sister's the writer. My sister would just kind of try to channel, like, maybe just stop. Like, you don't need to keep going. And I'm like, by God, I'm going all in, Dana. And she would just be like, don't do it. But when I got to WSU, I realized, well, you know, there's this thing called speech communication, and I bet I'd be pretty good at that. And so when I met my husband, Reed, of 31 years, who is a graduate from WSU as well, from the School of Construction Management, and he said, well, what are you studying? And I said, well, I'm studying speech. And he said, really? Like, there's a thing called speech communication? And I said, well, there really is, and you should come to one of my classes. And Reed said, no, thanks. Now, mind you, he's in engineering, and he'll probably die when I tell this, but the only C he got in college was Comm 101. So he's a little angry. He graduated first in his class from WSU. I don't think he ever got another thing but an A at WSU. But right here, Edward R. Murrow showed you where the real muster is. But what I would say about if you have ever had to take a speech communications class, you learn a lot of life skills very quickly. You learn to think on your feet. You learn, and one thing that we were really always taught was you should always be alert to what's going on around you so that if you need to, you can speak articulately about what's happening around you. And most important, if you don't know, you better know how to sell it quickly. And I realized I might have a gift for selling something I don't know a lot about. And that is what ultimately led me into this very interesting career path. And I think that that's the beauty of communications. If you understand how it works and you understand how to read an audience and you understand how to communicate one-to-one with somebody, but also to a room of people, if you find a way that you can galvanize people for a common good and to do something and to follow you, it really creates a pathway where your profession can be anything you want it to be. And I think you've heard that maybe from, you know, these others up here, is that I never thought that from Enterprise Rent-A-Car, washing cars and, you know, delivering donuts to places on Highway 99 on Aurora Ave in Seattle was gonna land me here. But I was a communicator and I figured out how to like navigate that of I want that job, I'm gonna move to that job. and I was open, and I was curious. And I think that that is what I learned so much here at WSU and with the Murrow School, is be open, be curious, and have confidence in yourself that you can do the next thing. And whether that's being an urban planner, which I know for urban planners, they know that I consider myself an urban planner. But from there to banking, to nonprofit, to school levies, whatever it might be. So lastly, I would just say that the specialness about WSU and people like Bruce is that he too is so open and curious and wants to invite you in. And you just want to be a part of something that Bruce is a part of. And so I just want to acknowledge you for the hard work that you do to be intentional about relationships. And that matters at the end of the day, Bruce, for your students and for your faculty, as well as for the Washington State University. And what an honor to be in this particular group of people. And more importantly, too, for me, what an honor to have my fellow regents here. Being a regent's not for the faint of heart. And I just said this morning I was speaking at the Elson S. Floyd College of Medicine's 10-year anniversary. And I said, you know, our terms are like dog years. They're 6 years, but they feel like they're 20. And I just recently was appointed for another 6 years and have the honor to serve with Lisa and Cassandra and Judy and Brett and Enrique. And that has been one of the rides of my life, one of the hardest things I've ever done, for sure, and continues to be a challenge, but yet the very best thing because of the people like them and the faculty and professors and leadership at Washington State University. So I'm deeply, deeply humbled, and it is a very full circle moment for me. And, you know, for everything I've given to WSU, WSU has given me 100 times back. So thank you very much.
Scott Hallock is our fourth inductee, and he is the founder and president of Like Minded Media. Scott has a long history in television production, including co-creating and executive producing sci-fi series Scare Tactics and NBC's How We Do It with Howie Mandel. A Murrow College graduate with a degree in broadcasting, Scott has created and written numerous television shows. His contributions to the entertainment and media industry have earned him national recognition. Please join me in watching this video tribute to Scott.
My name's Scott Hallock. I'm originally from Tumwater, Washington. Went to Washington State University, graduated in 1991, and I now live in Southern California as an executive producer, writer, and creator of television shows. The number one experience I had at WSU that made me kind of what I am today is working on our television show Live at 8. We did a live half-hour sketch comedy show where the students did everything. I got involved as soon as I got to WSU as a freshman on Live at 8, and started out as a writer-performer, worked my way up to head writer and then producer. And in the time that I was there at WSU, I was involved in, I think, over 120 different episodes of Live at 8 from freshman year to senior year. I think I'm most proud of starting a production company over 20 years ago, selling a show that I co-created, and that show's still running today, and my production company is still going strong. And the really gratifying thing about that show is that there are people I had no idea were fans are huge fans. Like, I'm working with Jordan Peele right now, who's an Oscar winner. So to have Jordan Peele come up to me and say, I love your show, and I need to thank you for the hours of entertainment it's provided me, is unbelievable.
Scott has really done a great job and been a great ambassador for us in the Southern California market. A lot of graduates leave Washington State and want to pursue something down in the Hollywood, Southern California area, and Scott has really been a great source of either information and sometimes jobs as they break into that industry.
There is a passion and a work ethic from WSU grads that you just don't see from a lot of other places. And so I recognize that in other Cougs, and that's why I really do strive to hire WSU grads whenever I can.
It would be very difficult to name a Coug who's moved to Los Angeles within the past 20 years who did not work on a Scott Hallock show. I can say for me, you know, 3 weeks into living in Los Angeles, you know, like the only thing keeping me going is, you know, basically the little bit of student loans that I still had in my bank account. If Scott had not taken a chance on me, I don't think that I would have this like life in Los Angeles and this career that I'm really proud of. And I think that you could say that about probably hundreds of other Cougs who have moved to Los Angeles. Scott, congrats on getting this award. I feel like of all the WSU folks down in Los Angeles, you deserve it. Also, thank you for letting me eat half of your lunch that one time in my job interview to be your assistant. Yeah, you're the best. You deserve this more than anybody I could think of. And congrats, man.
I don't do the kind of shows that get awards, so I've never won an Emmy, I've never won anything for my shows. And so to be recognized by the school I love, that was such a big part of my professional upbringing, was just, I was blown away. If you've got a dream, if you've got a passion, if you're good at what you do, you can do this. When I was at WSU in the early 90s, I was not aware it was an option to move to Hollywood and make TV shows. And then some friends of mine from WSU did it, and I thought, okay, maybe I can do this. And after moving to Southern California and having an opportunity to work on a bunch of shows, create a bunch of shows, work with the likes of Jordan Peele and Howie Mandel and Tracy Morgan and Betty White, why not you? If someone's got to do it, why not you?
Congratulations, Scott, and please join us on stage.
Later's at. Wow. Thank you all. This is really cool. I'm absolutely blown away. Thanks to Dean Bruce and the Murrow Professional Advisory Board, the HOA Committee, and the Murrow students and staff who made this all possible. And congrats to my fellow HOA nominees and inductees. It's an honor to be included in your company. It really is. Wow. Growing up, I did not think that things like this happened to farm boys from Washington State. When I was a senior at Tumwater High School, I don't know how, but I knew I had to go to WSU. In fact, it was the only school I applied to. Like Marty, I'd never even visited before. And I just showed up in the fall of 1987 and said, okay, now what? When I got here, Cable 8 was just starting up, and more importantly for me, Live at 8 was just starting up. And as many of you may know, Live at 8 was our live half-hour sketch comedy show that was completely student-run. We did everything. We hung the lights, we directed it, ran the audio, we acted in it. It was such great experience. And I jumped in my freshman year with both feet, first as a writer-performer, then as a head writer, eventually as a producer. And in our second year, Live at 8 ended up being syndicated to other colleges nationally on national college television. And when I produced the show in the fall of 1990, we celebrated our 100th episode, and we actually won a College Emmy Award. I moved to Los Angeles with some fellow Cougs after graduation in the spring of 1991, and that was a big leap. As luck would have it, one friend from Live at 8, who had moved down before us, Tina Keller, was doing so well at her job that they wanted to meet some of her other Cougar pals. So they ended up hiring Terrence Brown, Mike Southworth, and me to write and produce Fred Rogan's nationally syndicated Rogan's Heroes, which was a comedy clip show. Eventually, I got to co-create and produce my own show for the Sci-Fi Channel called Scare Tactics. Scare Tactics is a hidden camera show where friends set each other up for big, scary pranks. We used to say that boo is one of the oldest tricks in the book. Scare Tactics was basically Boo with a budget. Actually, the first 3 seasons of Scare Tactics, as Joey was mentioning, it felt a lot like a student production because we hired a lot of Cougs, and that's a good thing. We did 6 seasons and 119 episodes of Scare Tactics. They were hosted by the likes of Shannon Doherty, Stephen Baldwin, Tracy Morgan. And last year, I brought Scare Tactics back for 10 new episodes with Academy Award winner Jordan Peele and Universal Television. I also had the opportunity to create and produce a prank show for NBC called How We Do It with one of my comedy idols, Howie Mandel. And I ran another NBC prank show with the legendary Betty White called Off Their Rockers. Which brings us to today. When my WSU pal, Scott Vick, reached out and said he wanted to submit me for the HOA, I was blown away, I was honored, and I also thought, there is no way they're going to induct a guy who pranks people for a living into the Murrow Hall of Achievement. There's no way. A couple weeks later, I got the acceptance letter from Dean Bruce saying, congratulations on your acceptance into the Murrow Hall of Achievement. The induction ceremony will be April 1st. Right. Well, this is a prank. It's a very, very good one. You've gone to a lot of trouble. I really hope no one says just kidding. No? Since arriving at WSU in the fall of 1987, I feel like I've had the opportunity to live a dream. I met my wife, Nicole, here. I want to thank her and my daughters for their, Allie and Tessa, who are also here, for their unconditional love and support. I also want to thank the rest of my family for their love and encouragement over the years. My mom and sister, Lynn and Victoria, are here. My brother Brad and my dad Bill, who would have loved this. I also want to thank some of the Murrow family from my WSU days who really helped me more than they know. I want to thank Glenn Johnson, Neil Robeson, Guy Euchert, Richard Tafflinger, Brian Murray, Val Lindbergh, and Alex Tan. The philosopher Seneca said, luck is when preparation meets opportunity. The preparation available to us here at WSU is second to none. And Murrow grads tend to be some of the luckiest people in the world because we are the most prepared when we get our opportunities. So as it turns out, living your dreams in the entertainment world is something that can happen to farm boys and girls from Washington State. Thank you for the preparation here at WSU. Thank you for this incredible honor. This is still happening, right? Yeah? Okay. And finally, go Cougs.
Cougs hiring Cougs, that's a very good thing. So thank you for that too, Scott. For many of you, our next inductee needs no introduction. Roberta Kelly, Professor Emeritus, worked for nearly 5 decades at WSU, including 35 years in the Murrow College, where she taught reporting and science writing and coordinated and taught the college's media writing courses. With a background in animal science, biology, veterinary science, and communication, Roberta played a pivotal role in shaping the writing generations of Murrow students and writing instructors, and garnered recognition for her dedication to students as well as service to the academic community. Please join me in watching this video to honor Roberta Kelly.
Hi, Murrow Cougs. My name is Roberta Kelly. I was a professor of practice in the journalism and mass media department in the Murrow College for 35 years. I got a degree in animal science. I worked in research and development for Avon Cosmetics for a year in bacteriology. I decided to go back to school and then eventually, came down here to Pullman because of the veterinary school. On my way home from work at the veterinary college one day, I decided to stop off in the comm school, or department then, and see how long it would take me to get a journalism degree. One summer school session and then 1 year, a fall and a spring, and I would have everything I needed to get the journalism degree. And I thought, well, that's not too bad. Well, in the meantime, I had finished the journalism program. One Friday afternoon, late, it was really late, I had dropped stuff off. I was walking out the door and I passed Chuck Cole's office. Chuck Cole was our journalism faculty. He was on the phone, he was really upset. So I was trying to tiptoe past his office and get out the door, and then I could hear he slammed down the phone and he came rushing out of that office. Basically what happened was they had hired somebody to come in and teach this beginning writing class. I think it was 225 back then, Com 225. And Friday night, before classes started Monday morning, this guy said he wasn't coming, and they had nobody, and the class was completely enrolled, so you're not canceling this class, you can't. And it's like, what do you do? What do you do? You have nobody, Well, here's nobody. I didn't know AP, I didn't know what that meant. App, what's an app? I don't know what app. What's a style rule? I said, my famous last words is, don't worry about it. I said, but this is what you have to do. As soon as I turn around and leave here, you get looking for somebody else, because this is it. This is a one shot. I'm done after this semester. I am done. You got that? You hear me? How dumb was I that he gave me the gift of a lifetime and I didn't know it, and I just kept pushing him off and tried so hard not to do it that turned out to be the best job on earth. It was fun. It was just a fun job because it was such a challenge and every day was so different. My accomplishments are my kids. I mean, honestly, I think them all as my kids. And I still hear from kids. I get lots of wedding invitations, baby pictures and things like that. So it's like a huge extended family. I mean, it really is a cougar family to me. So probably always will be.
She always wants to see her students succeed, and although sometimes she may come off as a little bit stricter than other professors, it kind of made me be more cautious in my reporting and writing. Yeah, having her just kind of helped me become the journalist I am today.
I didn't know virtually anybody at WSU, and the few people I did know told me to drop Roberta's class and take something easier. And I really didn't know what I was doing, so of course I stuck with the class I had, and I am so grateful that I did. I have been a journalist for the Associated Press. I have been the owner of a 30-year PR company, and I just returned from being U.S. Ambassador to Barbados and the Eastern Caribbean. And I will tell you that the skills I learned in Roberta's class were absolutely applicable in each one of those careers. And it's proven to be invaluable in my career. Roberta, I love you, I honor you, and please know that my success is your success, because without you, I would not be here.
Maybe I was lucky. I think I just lucked into it. But certainly Chuck Cole opened the door for me. And if he hadn't forced me into it, I never in a million years would have pursued anything like that. And it was the greatest gift. A lot of kids might not think so, but it was for me.
Congratulations, Roberta. And on behalf of the thousands of students that you taught, thank you.
Well, like Scott, I have to say, I thought this was an April Fool's joke because when Bruce wrote, and I thought, oh, it's April 1st, he's pulling my chain, you know. It's like, you know, there are so many people who have done so many great things, and I think, well, you know, I worked for 35 years, and I took my paycheck, and that was good. That was fine. That's, you know, that's what it is. And so this was like completely unexpected, and I have to say, I still can't get my head around it. And so I wrote to Bruce and I said, right, this is April Fool's joke, right? And he said, no, really, it's for real. And I said, oh, okay, I guess, you know. But my careers have been kind of strangely organized. I did work in science for 15 years, and I'm afraid I'm a bit of a butterfly. You know, I do things for a while, and then something else comes along that looks a little bit more interesting, and it's like, oh, I quit. Let me go do this, you know. So the first job I had after graduation in science was with Avon, and 2 weeks in, I knew it was a terrible mistake. I wasn't much for industry, and I didn't fit, and I knew it, and I thought, that's all right, I'll make it a year to make enough money to go back to school. And I did, but what happened was I had friends who were going cross-country camping, and I thought, oh my God, this is a great chance to do something fun. So I quit. You know, my mother, to the day she died, she would always say, why did you leave that job? That was such a good job. And my mom, to my mom, you know, like Mr. Smith, my parents were Depression people. So, you know, having a steady income was terribly important. And education was a golden snitch. And having a job at Avon was certainly a chance to make a good income, which I did. And it was also a chance to meet a nice guy. You're going to meet a nice guy. So I grew up in the Bronx, so you know, so it was all about meeting a nice guy, which meant that somebody who had good employment and a big paycheck. And you know, pretty soon I'd have a house in Long Island and lots of little kids, and she would be happy. So I think she was bitterly disappointed all of her life that I didn't keep that job. But my dad understood. He understood right away what it was like, because while I don't have any experience at all for the job I held for 35 years, I had come from a back shop family, and my dad drove a truck delivering ink rollers to printing presses in New York City and Jersey. And my uncle was a ink salesman, and I had two cousins who did laser work at the New York Times, and one was president of the Printers Union. So our dinner time conversation, especially when strikes were looming, you know, was all about how are we going to get food on the table? How are we going to get food on the table? Because in my house, you know, it was also my parents were cursed with a work ethic, which they handed down to me. And then they also were big on doing favors. And I think also, as Harry has said, that was part of Depression think, you know, that you did what you could to help other people get through that awful time. And so my dad, God bless his soul, always worked more than one job. He'd come home, have dinner, run across the street and pump gas all night, and you know, until it was time to come back and shower and change and then get on the train and go to work, you know. And I watched him do that day in and day out for so many years. And he had to support my grandma because my grandfather had Parkinson's. He couldn't work. And then my aunt was widowed early. Her husband died of leukemia. She had a baby at home. She couldn't work. So my dad's supporting 3 families. And so, you know, the work ethic was there, but I'm thinking, boy, you know, I know one thing I don't want to do. I don't want to live in the Bronx anymore. I'm out of here. and as soon as I can, I would like to go. And the other thing was I just, I wanted some freedom, you know, and I didn't have that. I had 12 years of Catholic school. And the way, so I you know, I had the grammar skills down, but I had no practical experience. And if you had asked me growing up what I wanted to be, I would have never in 1,000,000,000, 100 billion years said a teacher. And that was like, why? You know, I was going to do that. You know, that does not sound interesting at all. But, you know, when I had the chance, and it was by chance that I got the second career, as I had said in the tape, that, you know, Chuck Cole gave me my life. I mean, he actually literally gave me my life. Without Chuck Cole, I don't know what would have happened, you know, except probably I wouldn't have been in the Bronx anyway. But other than that, he just did everything for me. And, you know, just that argument that day, not just Chuck, but whoever was on the phone and decided they didn't want the job and they weren't going to come, and they hung him out to dry because everybody had assignments. There was no one to teach the class. And I, you know, being a smart mouth, you know, I just said, oh, I said, you know, that's too bad. That's really unfortunate. I'm sure that's problematic for you. But, you know, on the upside, you got 2 days. This is Friday night. And you got to Monday. What do you know, what's the worry? So don't worry. And I said, you'll find somebody. And, you know, he looked at me. He didn't need 2 days. He had like 2 seconds. And he said the 4 magic words. He said, you can do it. And I said, oh my, have you lost your mind? Of course I can't do it. I know nothing. You know, I know nothing about except what I took in class. You know, I took 3 semesters just to get the degree so that I could go on and have some credentials to do some science writing. That was the goal. It wasn't ever anything else. And and I really did say to him, you know, you have got to find somebody, like right away, or I'm going to come back and kneecap you, because I'm not, this is not part of the game plan. You know, I gave up a well-paid job, you know, and I took 3 semesters. I used up a bunch of money to start another career, and you just threw a big kink in it, you know, and I'm doing this as a favor to you because you're my role model, and because I come from a long line of favor doers, and I couldn't say no. You know, he was a journalism professor with a really thick skin. He was irreverent, spoke truth to power, never backed down, and would routinely edit the dean's memos in red ink and send them back across the street with a grade on the bottom, usually failing. And when confronted, he would just say, hey, you know what? You got the job. You ought to be able to do it. Attitude. And he carried that attitude into class. And maybe it's because I came from a long line of Kellys and Callahans and grew up having a thick skin, because in our family, if you didn't have it, it didn't last long. And, you know, so I appreciated that. And somebody once said to me, you know, you're a blue-collar person working in a white-collar world. And I thought, you know, that really sums it up. But the backstory to that is it often made you feel second class. And it was very hard not to feel second. And I could feel that from him. And I thought, you know, it was the same for you. But the difference is at the end, it made him bitter. And I thought, I don't want to go there, you know. But he, in the 4 words that he said to me, you can do it, he really did change my life. And I just owe everything to him. And that first class, that news writing class, it came with a lot of anxiety for the students, because they had to test into it. It was very competitive. We didn't have room for everybody. So the only way we could fairly assign the seats was to test kids. So we gave them a writing test, a little grammar quiz, and what else? Probably news judgment kind of thing. And they had to get a certain score to get a seat. You know, we had maybe, I don't know, 40 seats, something like that. So there's a lot of anxiety, because if you didn't pass, you're either looking for another major or you're hanging around another semester to try to take the test again. I mean, you know, you got to go home and explain that to your mom and dad. My mother would have taken my spend all this money here. What are you doing? You know, she would have been very unsympathetic. So it's, you know, I understood that it was hard. And the first lesson when I got to the classroom that day, and Chuck kept saying, no problem, you know, because the next word out of his mouth was, no problem, I'll help you. Yeah, right. Help was, here's all the books. You know, have a nice weekend. So, you know, it's go home and you cram, and I never crammed so much for the first 2 hours of the class. I was terrified, absolutely terrified. I'm in my mid-30s, I'm supposed to know what I'm doing, and it's like I don't know. But I could see right away that the real problem wasn't so much the learning of the material. The kids were capable of learning the material. The problem was the anxiety level was like enormous. And until you get over that or get them over that, they're not going to learn anything. You know, you can't get past that. It's very hard. And so I guess I tried to make it my goal not to get bitter. And even though I got frustrated, and as I tried to tell the kids, I'm not your mother. You know, you don't have to like me, but you got to work for me. You know, it's on the board. Follow the board. Just follow. It's right there. It's all written there. Just follow it. You can read, right? You can read. You know, so I would get kind of snarky, I admit it. But, you know, it was with a goal, because I thought, you know, if I could get your attention for 1 millisecond, that's all I need. I can make a point. Make a point, and you're going to. So I did make them caretakers for my cat. So everybody knew I had a cat. They knew his name. They knew everybody else in my house was sound asleep, and I'd be up editing papers, grading papers, you know, because it's so important to have all the edits on there. You can't just slap a grade on there and give it back and expect somebody to know what's wrong, you know. So I do all these edits, and then I'd say, at the bottom of the paper, if it wasn't so good, I'd say, I kicked the cat, or my cat died last night. You know? So for years afterwards, people would, if I ran into kids, they'd always say, how's your cat? You still got the cat? You know, it's kind of funny. But it's like, so some, you know, some classes respond to humor, I found, others not. But, you know, in my heart, they were my family. Every kid was family. And that class was so much work. You know, later I got to teach upper division writing classes, reporting and science writing, and the science communication jobs kind of found their way to me, and so I did those too. But my heart always was with that beginning class, because that was the foundation class. That's the most important part of the work. If you get that first class in there solid, the kids can go on, they can do anything, you know. The hardest thing is to write one clear, simple sentence at a time. You know, it's so hard to teach that, to sell that, but, you know, to any students out there, you know, I would just really ask you to remember that nobody's in your corner more than your instructors. You're always pulling for you. We just don't want you to know it exactly, because we don't want you to take advantage, you know how it is. So it's just like, you know, we just want you to do your best, but at the end, we're not gonna lie and say you're doing okay if you're not, because that's not smart. That won't serve you in the long run. And we didn't want you to build on sand. We wanted you to build on something solid, because if you build on sand, you're gonna sink. The question is when. When are you gonna go down? So, you know, it was always, I hope you have all your rude surprises in my class, so that you don't get a pink slip later on for doing the same kind of mistake. You know, I can fail you, no big deal. You know, lose the grade, don't lose the lesson. For God's sake, if you get fired, just don't tell them you were in my class. I would always say, tell me you took it with Bruce. So, thank you.
I had forgotten about that COM 225 test that you had to take, and oh my gosh, brought that back. Our final inductee, Bill Swartz, is a veteran radio reporter and anchor who has been a trusted voice in Seattle media landscape since the 1980s. Known for his work as a sports reporter and anchor, Bill's career includes Notable contributions as a sideline reporter for Washington Husky football and as a host for Como's Thursday Night Doghouse. His passion for storytelling and sports journalism has earned him multiple accolades, including 2 Edward R. Murrow Regional Awards from the Radio Television Digital News Association. Please join me in watching this video honoring Bill Swartz.
I'm Bill Swartz. I'm the sports director at KNWN Radio in Seattle, Northwest News Radio, also the host of Puget Sound Now. At first, a little disbelief, then I was thrilled, then I was very excited to share the news with my family and colleagues who've known me for a long time. And then I got real reflective.
Great opportunities are right there in front of your team.
It is amazing that it's gone by, like this, and here we are in week 17.
Keith Jackson, it's a pleasure to talk with you, sir, for a few minutes on 97.3 Cairo FM. Good morning.
Good morning.
Well, Cougar Nation is here, and we're happy to have the Hall of Fame broadcaster, Bob Robertson, with us live this morning on News Radio 710 Cairo. Bob, thank you very much.
Bill, thank you. I was wondering if I...
Look at the list of people who are in this elite group of Washington State University alums and went through the Murrow School of Communication. I'm part of that.
Bill can do anything and be really good at it, whether it's being a reporter, an MC, a comedian. His sense of humor is world class.
His creativity, his sense of humor, his legendary Bob Robertson led Bob Robertson to tell him at one point that if anything happens to me, you're on the air.
I always thought Bill did a better Bob Robertson than Bob did.
Takes great pride in being a professional radio man. There's a lot to be said for showing up every day for 40 plus years.
Just so versatile. Bill could do anything and do it well.
I think the fact that I've had the opportunity to go be part of some just historic events and cover them in person and get access to events and newsmakers and people that the general public would not. But then be able to convey that through my voice and my storytelling. I think those are the most valuable contributions I've made during my career, and it really makes me feel rewarded at the end of the day. I just spoke to a group of high school journalism students recently, and they asked me what kind of guides me every day when I think about doing stories and storytelling. I have a lot of C words that I use, honest to Pete, and one of them that starts my day is curiosity. Why should I be so caring about a topic or a guest that my listener would want to know more about that person or topic too? So curiosity drives everything.
Bill, you've earned this. A long career, quality work all along the way, quality man, quality person, quality teammate. You've done Washington State proud, and you've done the radio industry proud. All of us that have had the chance to work with you over the years look back on those days with great joy and appreciation and respect for you, the radio man, and you as Bill Swartz. Congratulations on this recognition.
Hey, Bill, I want to extend my sincerest congratulations on your induction into the Murrow School Hall of Achievement. I've known and worked with a number of your now fellow Hall members, and it's great to see you join in their company. You have to understand, it's still a little tough for me to say, go Cougs, but in this case, in your case, we're going to make an exception. Congratulations, my friend. Well done, Bill.
Let's see. It was the first day for a new school president. You had a coveted, decorated, beloved news anchor speak to you. You had Eric Johnson of the Heroes, the ultimate storyteller, and now all these heavy hitters, and then I bat ninth. That's an April Fool's joke. So, Bruce, I get it. You started with A, S, Swartz. I'm the last to go. But you've raised the bar, and it is truly an honor to be included in this remarkable group of achievers. It is April Fool's Day, and I think it's fitting in my career because it kind of started with a prankster in high school writing morning announcements, imitating teachers and making my classmates laugh. And that got me a little notoriety. And then later, as you saw in the tape, I was on a Husky tailgate show and impersonating Cougar legends, and it gave me some popularity. I mean, what joy to get to know Keith Jackson, and then, talk about a big old sophomore who could pick him up and put him down and flat out fly. And then my first Apple Cup ever working the sideline, it is just the legendary Bob Robertson and myself going up the elevator at Husky Stadium. And Bob knew that I was doing impersonations of him. He didn't let on. I said, I'm Bill Swartz. I'm a huge fan. I used to just sit on the Barco Lounger, listen to your broadcast. You're an artist. I just worship you as a Coug. Oh, you're that guy who's been imitating me. And I go, oh, here it comes. Hey, listen, Swartz, if I go down in the fourth quarter, you come up, start talking, nobody will know the difference. Always be a good sport, always. And he was to me. What a great treasure he was. And it was a joy for me to be back in Pullman, God's country. And today, I actually went over to Murrow Hall and hobnobbed around KWSU, KUGR. I earned my chops as the Latah County reporter, Moscow School Board, and a political science minor. And what did I do my first year in the world? I was covering a school board in Sunnyside, Washington. And it prepared me so much for those big opportunities that would be out there. And no fooling, it is a joy to be back in this God's country, this special part of the world, and be so honored with this group of people who are, risen to the top of their profession and given back so much to their communities and honored WSU and the name Edward R. Murrow. Every time I receive one of those trophies, man, really? Murrow? I got a Murrow? And now this is like enormous times a bazillion. So it is really, really cool. The thanks in my career start with my parents, who instilled with me their Pennsylvania Dutch work ethic. The job wasn't over until you did it right. And Don and Emily also had a love for writing, arts, and entertainment. My dad sings in a country western duo. He's 93 years old. Now you know where I get it, okay? And they didn't judge me when I switched from one art form, classical music, over to another, reporting and storytelling. And they supported me every lick of the way. And then my family and friends who got it, that if you're in radio, it's late nights, long flights, early morning hours. You miss a lot of gatherings. You miss a lot of birthday parties and that sort of thing. And so I thank them for all their support and understanding about the sacrifice. My biggest thanks is to my co-creator, my editor, my fashion designer at times, my travel agent, and the love of my life, my wife, Connie. And when she raised her hand about this Husky stuff, you know that I'm the one who's really glad we're still playing the Apple Cup, especially after last year. And somebody tried to run a short side option play for a winning touchdown. Who does that? The game's here this year, right? You're going to get your first Apple Cup. Welcome, President. I know you are. So I go back to my WSU days, and you've been all talking about influential professors, like we just heard from. And by the way, let me just say congratulations to all of you. I'm just in elite company here with Bruce and Paul and Marty and Scott and Rebecca. And we just heard from Rebecca about what it is to, give that time, that investment in kids. And I had two people in my world at WSU when I morphed in here from the music world. And those were Jim Dunn, who was a hard guy. We had 25 typewriters and 30 bodies. These were manual typewriters. You had a 60-second test, go. And if you didn't pass that test, see you next semester. And that's how you weeded out kids who were real serious about broadcasting and communication. The other professor who taught me how to write sentences for the ear and to be fair and tough with my questions and to complete the story and do it right was Val Lindbergh. We heard about him before. A gentle soul who lined me up with my first internship in the real world, and then I was off and running. I had so many colleagues and mentors that I got to thank, too many to name, but my first opportunity was in Sunnyside, Washington, and Don Bennett was one of the pioneers in radio broadcasting in the state, and he gave me my first crack at it, and he would come in the morning and say, good volume. He'd light up his pipe. What do you mean, good volume? Was I loud? No, he had lots of stories, and they're all good. Good volume. And then I went to Sunnyside, and you saw her picture. From there, I went to Kirkland, and I didn't think I was ready for the big market. But this woman named Patty Payne would not accept no for an answer. I need you. I must have you work. And she cajoled me. And she finally got me to go over there, and she and Andy Thompson opened the doors. They gave me the keys to create, and they showed me this gear and said, hey, guess what? Saturday, you're doing Little League baseball games on the radio. I said, excuse me? In Kirkland, Washington? It was the biggest break I'd ever received in my life. They won the World Series in 1982 with Cody Webster and Taiwan, and I was the guy along for the ride. I mean, how blessed was I? But my training here at WSU prepared me for that moment, for that opportunity. And then I got hired over at KOMO. Gary Stewart opened the door for me there. It was the finest group of news people I've ever worked with in my life. Mike Conklin was part of that team. I got to work with Eric Johnson and Keith Shipman. These people are all legends. And why? Because they got their training at Washington State University. That's why. They're Cougs. Now, another Coug welcomed me into the Cairo family, Dave Pridemore. He still drives his RV over here. He told me about his story proposing to his wife next to the grain silos at Washtukna. If that's not a Coug, what is a Coug? Huh? So that's what you're ingrained here. That's why you come back here every year, and you're part of this special world over here in the Palouse. What I learned through Washington State University, it prepared me for these tremendous opportunities, and no moment was too big for me. When I got to meet and interview some of these legends like Arthur Ashe and the First Lady Barbara Bush, and people always say, what was your best interview? What was your most favorite? They all were. You know you're making a difference in somebody's life by asking the right question, telling the right story. And we've heard about it so much today through all of the symposium, through Harry's great speech, that now more than ever we need journalists to tell those stories, really well-trained journalists who aren't afraid to speak truth to power and stand up and do the right thing. Yeah, I thank my Murrow colleagues and a lot of my friends for nominating me, and especially the HOA board for recognizing, considering me worthy. I mean, Dean said it beautifully. It's less than 1% of. See, I didn't go to mass school here. I went to communication school. Okay, it's an elite. It's finite, and to be considered worthy and be that group of esteemed people, it is really, really cool. These are folks I've admired my entire career, and now to be in that club. Man, that's ultra cool. Yeah, I was associated with that former Pac-12 school and their sports teams for a long, long time. And I'm always proud to be a Washington State University graduate. That's the first thing. I didn't wear a lot of crimson and gray when I was over there in Seattle, but now I got no dog in the hunt. So I proudly say, go Cougs!
All right, we on here? Okay, Mary Grace, our work here is done. Sorry? Louder, am I on? Are we on here? There we go, okay. Mary Grace, our work here is done. Okay, so everybody been here for a long time. Let's have a round of applause for our HOA inductees, please. Okay, very briefly, we have dessert in the back of the room. There's coffee and some things over there. We have some posters up about the research we do, some of the courses we teach. There's a virtual reality set over there if you're interested in something like that. Please stay and check it out. I can't remember the official name because we called it something that was too complicated, Stacy, so next time let's simplify it for me, okay? All right. Beyond that, tomorrow morning here at 9 o'clock, Andrea Joyce is going to be delivering the best free lecture we've ever had, okay? I'm not kidding. This is a Hall of Fame sportscaster. We have a unique opportunity to hear her speak. I'm really excited about it. I want to make sure we pack this room out to hear what she has to say. Other than that, have a good evening and go Cougs. All right.